Welcome back, Internet, to Parsing John. This is John chapter 1, verses 3 through 4, the second part of our Latin text. We're going through the Vulgate. In our previous video, we went through 3 and 4 in Greek and got a good look at how those sentences are put together and how they are translated. We're going to take a look at the Latin now as we prepare to compare the two texts together. Now, if you were with us in the previous video with the Greek, you saw that we didn't have enough time to get to verse 5, which means in the Latin one, we're only going to go as far as hominum. We're also going to stop at the same point. Okay, let's go ahead and start. Got our rubric over here. Let's read the Latin aloud. Omnia per ipsum facta sunt, et sine ipso factum est nihil. Quod factum est, in ipso vita erat, et vita erat lux hominum. So far the text. Right. Just as with last time, the first thing you always want to do when translating another text from a different language into English is you want to find the verb. So we go through here. Omnia is not our verb. Per is a preposition. So we're going to open a parentheses there for the next prepositional phrase. Ipsum. Facta doesn't match ipsum, so it's probably not going to end there. But let's not close it off just yet. So we go further. And here we have sunt. We have ending in T, which means that we have a third person, and it's going to be plural. And this looks like a verb of being, but if you know your vocabulary, you can take a look back at facta, and facta is actually going to be part of this verb, which means that our prepositional phrase actually ends here. Now, to confirm this, we want to find our subject. We're looking for a third person plural subject. Our clause ends at this conjunction right here. The prepositional phrase can't be the subject, and sunt doesn't want a direct object, and facta sunt, since this would be a passive form of the verb if we are correct about it, also doesn't want a direct object. Instead, it only wants a subject. We take a look further back and we get omnia. And omnia is the either nominative or accusative plural neuter form of omnis, omne. Since we know we want a third plural subject here, and we don't want a direct object, nominative is the one that makes the most sense. Nominative plural, neuter. Which then means that we can confirm and here. Got the plural nominative neuter ending with that one, that this is our verb, and we can close off this and parse the rest of it. We know it is now perfect and passive and indicative. And it would translate to were made or became. Okay, going back to our subject, we know this word means all, and just as in the last verse where we had hoc, referring to something without that it's an own noun in the same sentence, and we included the word one to add clarity for us poor English readers, we can do the same thing here. The context allows it, but we still need to make sure that it's a vague enough word that we're not putting something into the text that doesn't belong. And usually the word that we want to plug in with this, with omnia, is going to be things. All things, and we're going to use the translation became, because this is too close to the imperfect translation of the verb. We don't want to add confusion to the text too much, so that's where we're going with the more clear, perfect translation. All things became per ipsum. Per is a preposition that always takes the accusative case, and we can confirm that because ipsum ends in um, which is the accusative form of ipse, ipsa, ipsum. And ipse in the accusative matches the neuter form. Now what we would want to do is we'd want to find out what ipsum refers back to, and it's going to go all the way back to deum, or well, deum because deus erat verbum in this case. And we wouldn't say it, since we know the word is actually a being. We would say him. And this translates to through. all things through him became. And a coordinating conjunction, prepositional phrase, factum and ipso do not match. Oh, we see here that we got factum est, which is another but singular form of this one. We can't pull this over because now they are different. We know that omnia can't be the subject of this one because this is plural and these are both singular. Third, singular. And if we really wanted to say, we could add in nominative, do the long form. Third singular nominative, perfect, passive, and indicative. All right, and this would be, instead of were made, it would be was made or became again. Okay, now what's the subject of this one? Since omnia being plural can't be the subject, we're not working with Greek, so we don't have that confusion in there. We look ahead. Nihil is our only word. This is going to introduce a different clause. Nihil is a very interesting Latin word. It's only declined, I think, in 3 forms: the nominative, the accusative, and the dative. I think there might be another one, but we here have either the nominative or the accusative form. We don't have anything else in this clause that fits our subject here, so it makes most sense to call this one the subject, and that would be singular, nominative, singular, and neuter. Why neuter? Because it is referring back to omnia. It is one of what omnia is, and it means nothing. All right, now we can come back to our prepositional phrase. We look at ipso, just like the O there and the O there. We've got a ablative. That's what sine takes normally, and it's going to be singular. Now we just need to figure out what the gender of ipso is. We will look further back in the text until we find its antecedent. It's going back to ipsum, and ipsum in turn refers all the way back to hoc, and hoc refers to verbum. Deus erat verbum. So we can say him again. Without. And without him became nothing. All right. Quod. Quod is a relative pronoun, so it's going to match the number and the gender of its antecedent, but it's going to have the case necessary for its own clause. This word, incidentally, also frequently is easy to confuse with a different word meaning because. They are spelled exactly the same. If you've done a lot of Latin, you know you're probably frustrated too. So this one is going to be matching nihil as its antecedent, which means that it is also neuter. And this, in fact, confirms for us that nihil is neuter, because the nominative form of a masculine word would be qui, and the accusative form of a masculine word would be quem, since we're not asking a question. So neuter and singular. And looking ahead, we've got a repetition of this action, so I'm just going to pencil in, or pin in, became. Here, it's going to make it nominative. Nominative, singular, neuter, which became. Verse number 4, prepositional phrase here. Vita and ipso don't match their gender. O is only not masculine or neuter. Vita is a feminine noun. So we know that the prepositional phrase closes off there. We go further ahead. Erat is our verb. It's a repetition of this. No need to parse it again. Was. What was? Vita. Vita is the first declension, feminine, nominative singular case ending. And it means life. Life was. Our clause ends there with the conjunction. In ipso, this one is going to take the ablative, because we got our long O here, A-B-L, and it's going to be singular. And now we need to just figure out, to what does it refer? Okay, it's not going to be nihil. That doesn't make sense in the context. Instead, it's going to go back to this ipso, which then goes back to this one, which then goes back to hoc, and ultimately refers back to the Word. And who is the Word? The Word was God. So we're going to say in him. In him life was. And life again, as a subject still, same case ending. Life, erat again, was. And now we need another predicate nominative word or a prepositional phrase. We look ahead, lux hominum, the end of our verse. Neither of those are prepositional phrases, so one of them must be a nominative predicate subject. And we look at hominum. Hominum is a third declension word, and um is actually its genitive ending. So it's not going to be this one. Lux has to be nominative form. Nominative, and it's going to be singular. And this word is also feminine, as will be confirmed in in the next video. And this one means light. For now, we can come and deal with our final word in the sentence. We already know that this is a third declension genitive plural. And now we would just need to figure out, well, what is the gender of this noun? Knowing the meaning of the noun, and it means men, we only have one option, and it has to be masculine. And this means of plural men, period. Now from the beginning of verse 3, we've got all things through him became, and without him became nothing, which became. In him life was, and life was light of men. Again, to make it a little bit easier for you to read, if you're keeping this for your notes later, you can stick in articles where they make most sense in the English. I'm not going to do that for, video number 7 will explain that a little bit more. I hope looking through this was as helpful for you as it was for me, and I hope you have a good evening.